The folks at Whitespark, led by Darren Shaw, were kind enough to put this study together. It involved almost 50 local SEO experts who scored almost 190 different ranking factors to determine, in their eyes and their experience, what's working, what's not. And the study involved three main categories: local packs, local organic results, and also AI search. Before we dive into the details, let's go over kind of the ranking signal groups that were considered here. So these are the various categories that can be sending ranking signals that contribute ultimately to your business's positioning in those three categories. So we've got your Google Business Profile, we've got your on-page optimization and the signals that sends. We've got your reviews. Now that could be on Google, but also other platforms as well. Got your backlink profile, behavior signals, and we're focusing mostly on interactions with your Google Business Profile there. Then we've got citations, so that can be your directory consistency, but we also know with AI that can include mentions on the web. Then we've got the personalization signals coming from the user who's searching for you and where they're located, and of course, social media. Now, this visual I thought was really important, and I'll click over to a larger version of it so we can see it better. This is from the web page based on the study itself. So we've got the three main categories that I mentioned earlier, and then we've got the signal groups that are contributing the most to your visibility in those three categories. So when we look at local packs, top three: Google Business Profiles, reviews number two, and then your on-page signals, traditional SEO, at number three. For your local organic, your traditional rankings, we've got on-page signals at number one there, then your backlink profile, then the behavioral signals. So that's very traditional SEO. Finally, we've got AI search. So again, number one, your on-page signals, your text obviously feeding into those language models. Then we've got your reviews and your citations. Personally, I like to focus on the top three factors for each of those categories. And one kind of interesting insight is on-page signals is in the top three for all three categories. So anyone that tells you traditional SEO is out isn't quite accurate, in my opinion. Since local pack visibility is so important, it's worth honing in on those ranking factors. Let's look at all of them and then we'll take a deeper dive into each. So at number one is the primary business category that you have chosen. So this is a really important one. You want to make that choice carefully. Then we've got one that's just a reality. Your business's proximity to the person searching, that's number two. Keywords in your Google business title is number three. This one you have to be careful with, and I've seen spotty results for it, but we'll talk more about that later. Then another kind of just reality, your physical address in the city of search. So that one's closely related to proximity to searcher. That can also involve your proximity to the city center. And then whether or not your business is open at the time of search. And there's been some chatter about rankings dropping about 1 hour before closing time. For the first one, we really want to nail our primary business category. So we want to choose the single most specific category that matches your specialty. This actually reminds me a lot of schema, where there are general types of schema that you can apply to your page, but often choosing the most specific applicable schema type is going to yield the most benefit. So this is really reminiscent of that. We can also audit our competitor categories for insights. What's interesting there is that specific categories often have less competition than general ones. So when you're doing that auditing, maybe there's a more specific category that applies to your business and it can help set you apart. We've also got the option in Google Business Profiles to add relevant secondary categories, but we want to add these sparingly and we want to make sure that they map to real services. So when you're in there optimizing, you just have to do good, honest work. Don't be too tactical or too eager to get a rankings boost. Google does use all categories, primary and secondary, to determine relevance to search queries, and adding irrelevant categories can actually dilute your relevance signals. So let's talk about the reality of proximity and location. Sometimes, actually often, there's not much you can do here to address it, but it is good to be aware of it. So proximity to the searcher, that's our number two ranking factor. Your physical address is number four, non-negotiable, and it can significantly limit your ranking radius. And service area businesses just face greater challenges. They don't have a physical address in their Google business profile. It's not displaying, and that can negatively impact rankings. So what do you do about this? Well, if you're able to, you can select your office locations strategically, and you might consider additional locations if there's an area you're struggling to rank and you just know from your research and from your experience that you need a presence there. But of course, it's got to be a legitimate location. You want to keep that address visible on your Google business profile whenever it's allowed by guidelines. That's a key to ranking. And you can do some pin verification to make sure that where you're placed is 100% accurate. Scammers are able to move pins, and it doesn't necessarily notify you when that happens. So that's something to be aware of. Keep an eye on that every now and then. And there is pin monitoring software out there if you're interested. Let's talk about keywords in the business title and being open. So having keywords in your business title, it is a massive factor. Even in 2025, even in 2026, having a keyword signal in your business title that aligns with a search, it's just always going to be powerful. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have a keyword in your business name, you can consider making it part of your business name, but only if it's, actually part of it. There is another tactic called a DBA, which is a doing business as. Some businesses can apply for this. It's kind of like a second name. You often have to pay a fee, and you'll be able to potentially get a keyword in your business name. I've seen this done a number of times, but the results have been spotty. Sometimes it sticks and you see that DBA appear in the Google business profile and you do see rankings increase. But from my experience, it's been temporary. Eventually, either Google does it on its own or you get reported and then Google reacts to that. But the DBA gets removed, it reverts back to your original name, and you don't see those gains anymore. So in my opinion, it's not reliable, and that's why I'm sharing this advice with you today. Now, being open at the time of search is the number 5 ranking factor for local packs. As I said earlier, there's some talk of rankings dropping 1 hour before closing. So what can you do about this? Well, it's actually quite common for businesses to have inaccurate hours up on their Google business profile. So make sure you take a look at those and make sure they're entirely accurate. You might notice that, our closing time says 5 o'clock, but we really don't stop serving people until 5:30. We keep our doors open. So let's stretch that a little bit and get that extended ranking benefit. And another one is be sure you put in your holiday hours accurately. Now let's talk about some things that have changed since Whitespark did this study in 2023. Here's what's trending up: Google Business Profile Signals. That is an incredibly powerful tool for local search rankings. Also, review signals. And let's talk about reviews for a second. I might mention this again later on, but Google reviews are, of course, a key to local search ranking, but also reviews on third-party platforms. So let's not forget about platforms like Yelp, Trustpilot, and any others that might be relevant to your business. Another one I heard mentioned a lot more in this report than I had in the previous one was behavioral signals. So interactions with your Google business profile, clicking on things like website, phone number, directions, menu, etc. Link signals continue to trend down, but these are pretty fundamental, so I wouldn't discount them or anything, but just other things have emerged as maybe more important than they were. And the volume of content is less valued. So making sure that every word on your local service pages really counts and there's no fluff. One key shift that's pretty strongly related to AI is Google rewarding user engagement, but also fresh content. We know LLMs react well to that. On-page stability, this is one I mentioned earlier, that remained consistent in importance with a slight increase for local organic, so the traditional results. And then social media and personalization, small but steady increases in importance. Now let's look at the biggest increases in importance. Being open at the time of search was a new ranking factor that came into play in this 2026 study. So that is now number 5. Your address showing up on your GBP. Sorry, service area businesses. That's a new one. It's number 7. Proper hours set on your Google business profile. That's way up, 64 spots. GBP predefined services present. That's a new one at 22. And I want to kind of show you what that means. This is sort of what it looks like within the GBP platform. So if you're a plumber, if that's your primary category, then Google will suggest predefined services for you. So it's kind of intelligently producing these, and you can click the ones that are applicable. You might be the type of business that doesn't generate these within the platform. And so you might see something like this. If you're a music school, it'll give you the option to add a custom service. Now, 2 things to keep in mind: keywords matter here, but so doesn't accuracy, and I'll say honesty. So make sure whatever you choose as a custom service is entirely accurate to your business. I would put that as your first litmus test. And then if there's a keyword present, then that's going to benefit you. Then we've got the quantity of GBP engagement signals. I talked about those earlier. And in-store visits, that was kind of an interesting one. If your business is busy at the time of search, you have a chance of ranking better. Here are some of the biggest decreases. Like I said, link factors, they're trending down for local pack rankings. At least that's how people feel. But like I said, they're quite fundamental. So you always want to have link building mixed into your strategy. Links from your Google Business landing page pointing out to other pages is down 65 spots. People felt like that wasn't as relevant. Here's another kind of related one, linking out to topical authority sites. That's one people were finding not as beneficial, but it doesn't mean that doing these things is a bad thing. If it makes sense to do it and it's good for the user, I think you should, consider it. One thing we don't want to do is see a study like this, see that something's trending down in terms of effectiveness, and then abandon it completely. A lot of times that just means other things are emerging as more important, but there can be other things that are still fundamental. And then volume of content on service pages. So this was de-emphasized, and what is emphasized is quality and scannability. They're beating out word count. I want to comment on this one because when it comes to service pages, sometimes you have kind of a concise, tightly written service page, and other times you have one that's a bit longer, maybe quite a bit longer. And let me talk about that second scenario. When I'm outlining a service page, I try to think of the different types of users that might visit. And one user might need to hear about the problems that they're having before they get the service. Another user might need to hear about the process of working with you and how easy it is. And then a third user might need to build trust and see that you are certified and credentialed and you have experience in that specific area. And I also want to think about the page from top to bottom and kind of the flow of it. Does it tell the story of your expertise, your experience in the area, your capability with that service? So for me, word count isn't the goal, and it's never a measure of a good or a bad page. It's essentially, what does this audience need to convert? And I build it based off of that. Here are some surprising insights from the study. So the open now status rankings can fluctuate in real time based on your business hours. That's why it's a good idea to take a second look at those and make sure they're 100% accurate. Service area businesses, they're not displaying their address, and that can negatively impact rankings. That's just the reality. There's a myth about title tags where they shouldn't be over 60 characters, something around that. That's something we've heard as SEOs for a long time. Doesn't really matter. You just have to kind of consider what is being seen in the SERP, in the search results, and make sure that that has got a keyword and some conversion language. You can write beyond that to send additional signals, but human users aren't going to see that. So just make sure what they can see is going to help them convert. Geotagging photos, this might have been one that you heard as a ranking factor in the past. Nowadays, we're saying it's a myth. For AI search, unstructured mentions across the web now matter more. And so this used to be something that we were a little bit dejected about. If we got mentioned but not linked to, we would be sad as SEOs. But nowadays, we're celebrating mentions because AI platforms are still finding us and they're using those mentions in their synthesized answers. So it's good to be mentioned in a lot of different places. It's great to get a link, but that's not the be all end all. And then of course the comment on targeted content. So clear, scannable pages outperform lengthy ultimate guides. And I'll just echo what I said before. I don't have anything against longer pages if that's what the user wants. But I will say that scannability, that is something you definitely want to lean into. You don't want huge blocky paragraphs. So in terms of AI search, the top factor was presence on expert curated best of lists. Now, this is great if you can get included on this. So, the best plumbers in Chicago, something like that. However, I will say this can be really resource intensive. It can take a lot of time, it can take a lot of effort, and it can still fail. I mean, it's a little bit like link building in that way, but I've actually seen the failure rate even higher for this kind of tactic. So while it does work, it may just work for now. It's possible in the future it will be weighted less. And you have to be really careful not to spend too much of your strategic resources on any one tactic because there's a lot of ranking factors that come together and sum to your positioning. So be careful with that one. They are AI overviews are expected to become the default user experience within 1 to 3 years. We know Google is pushing people to use it more. Reputation over rankings. So it's good to get in the mindset of, looking to build brand mentions, getting your PR on track, and making sure you have regular outreach happening. And then getting reviews across platforms, as I mentioned. Don't be too hyper-focused on Google. Maybe that's the priority, but you should be actively trying to get reviews on third-party platforms as well. So you have a good spread. And then no matter where the AI goes to look for information about you, you've just got a better chance of being there. We want to build our content in an AI-friendly way. So I talked about that earlier. And our local mentions strategy can include news, relevant blogs, Reddit, and even building a dedicated testimonials page with your own reviews. I've seen this work for a lot of brands. A lot of them discount this and say, who's going to trust that? We built our own reviews page. But as I've said before, just do it honestly, include real reviews, have a page where people can go and see that kind of stuff. That's some great bottom of funnel content that can build trust just before a conversion. I also looked at a Reddit thread that was related to this study, and here were some interesting things that people were talking about. Driving that Google Business Profile engagement, because we know that's an important ranking factor. Here's a tip. Include links to your GBP in your email signatures. You can have some in-store strategies like signage that encourages people to search for you or visit your GBP. You can include QR codes. And of course, encourage everyone to leave a review. And you can give them the option of what platform you want them to go to. I would include at least 2. And then, of course, you can have QR codes on your business cards. Reviews decay quickly. That's an important one to know. So rather than going for the big boost within a 2-day period where you reach out to all your friends and say, leave me a review, it's much better to have a steady stream of fresh reviews coming in. And make sure you're responding to these. This is another area where I see local businesses kind of dropping the ball. Maybe they have a review campaign. They've done the work to set that up. They're asking their customers and their customers are reviewing them, but then they don't go and respond to the reviews. Responding to reviews is a great thing. It's a great signal for anyone to see, Google or human. Do it professionally always and respond to the good ones and the bad ones, and be so careful with those bad ones. A lot of people look at how you respond to bad reviews and make a judgment about your business from those. So be super professional, try to be helpful. You really want to uphold the reputation and outward appearance of your business in a response like that. Here's another interesting tip that I still see a lot of local businesses wondering about. If you've got a call tracking platform, your call tracking numbers are okay to use on your Google Business Profile. Now, from this year's report, I did see some comments, NAP consistency, name, address, phone information. That being consistent isn't a ranking factor. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that one. And maybe I'm misinterpreting the takeaway there, but I still think NAP consistency is one of those fundamental foundational things. How could it not be, right? Your business information has to be accurate wherever it's listed. And the more accurate it is, the more benefit you're going to get. In fact, I've done some competitor research for local clients that have a higher authority in all the data that we can see than a competitor. And when you look at the competitor, their websites aren't even that great. They don't have more reviews. But one thing we did see was that the directory diversity they had was far, far greater, and the consistency was stronger. So I do think that at times, in certain scenarios, it can contribute to rankings. So I would definitely want to get that right. I saw some other tips where you could run contests requiring branded searches. I won't go into the details here, but I actually took this idea into an AI tool like ChatGPT and I brainstormed with it a little bit, gave it business details, gave it the seed idea, and it came back with some really clever, fun things that could be, campaigns that might drive some of those behavioral signals. So here's a strategy roadmap for you in 2026. Get your Google Business Profile foundations right. Select that category specifically, tune those hours, pick those secondary services, and remember to concentrate on some sort of cadence on things like photos and Google Business posts. Your content architecture, so the one page per service thing is still in play. That's traditional SEO. You want strategic title tags, front load it with keyword and conversion language, and make your copywriting scannable. If you're not implementing a review program, now's the time to do it. It's really, really important. Reviews are so powerful. So make sure that you're making it easy for people to leave you a review and giving them multiple ways to do so. Because some people respond to word of mouth, some people prefer a QR code. So have all of those things in place and make sure that you're not just focusing on Google. For AI visibility, you want to structure your content appropriately. We talked in detail about that. You want diverse citations, so don't just do link building, consider mention building and celebrate those wins. And do build a testimonials page if you've got them. You want your GBP to be an engagement engine. So optimize the features for that visibility so people see you in the local pack and they click in, and then they start interacting with the features on your profile. So thanks for exploring this 2026 local search ranking factor study with me today. I hope there was some useful information in there for you that you can apply to your strategies and see more success. If you'd like to chat with me, ask me any questions, talk about the 2026 report, or discuss how Six City can help you with your local visibility, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thanks so much.